Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our reading through the Tanak night, the 19th of November 2025. Okay, we'll be reading our 5 chapters on Wednesday. Wednesday night. It's Deuteronomy chapters 31 through 35. Okay, we're going to read each chapter and break it down like we normally do. Okay, go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. And for those that want to support the channel, we have our app, a cash app at the bottom of the screen. That too will be greatly appreciated. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel. For those that don't know, we deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses. Excuse me, by our Savior and our Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. This channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days, these final hours, to their true identity and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our reading through the Tanakh all night. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer. We'll read the Psalms. We have some current events, some need-to-know information. We'll open it up for anybody with questions, comments, any dialogue or testimonies. And then we'll go to our topic for discussion, and it's big because it's dealing with Isaiah chapter 60, which I'm gonna read after I play the video, because it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is part of prophecy, right? We at the very end, okay? And then, like I said, we'll be reading scripture, which is out of Deuteronomy. We'll be reading chapters 31 through 36. Then, like we normally do, we pick a scripture, we'll read that scripture, then we'll break it down, and then we'll close out, okay? This moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts, and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongeth unto Thee. Therefore we come before Thee at this hour, seeking Thy face, and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before Thee, as Thy servants David and Solomon and Samuel and Hezekiah did. For we desire to walk after Thee, O Lord, and to keep Your commandments and Your testimony, Your statutes with all our heart and soul, to perform the words of the covenant that was written down by Your prophets. O Lord, allow Thy face to shine upon Thy people, and hear our plea. Hear and do, O Lord, and hide not Thy face from us any longer, for we need You so very much at this hour. Peace be unto You. Okay. I'll read the Psalms right quick. Okay. Okay, I read Psalms 3. It's a prayer for confidence in God. It's a Psalm of David. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. Selah, but Thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of my head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and He heard me out of His holy hill. Selah. Okay, Selah. He laid me down to sleep. I awakened, for the Lord sustained me. I will, excuse me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for Thou hast smitten all mine enemies upon my cheekbone. Thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessings is upon thy people. Selah. That was Psalms 3, and it's the title of it is A Prayer for Confidence in God. Okay. So with that being said, we'll go to our current events, and like I said, we'll play them, and then I'll get some feedback. Okay.
Americans are absolutely freaking out, and I understand why. But over the past 48 hours, I have received countless messages. I've received hundreds of comments here on YouTube, all saying the same thing, that people don't have any money. The food is too expensive, utility bills are too expensive, their house is too expensive. They're trying to find a way out of this. Here's the problem. Over the past couple of weeks, we have seen a major shift, specifically around the stock market. And people have been over leveraged. They put everything in it, and now they are freaking out because their money is disappearing. Look at this right here. It says Dow closes down nearly 500 points. S&P logs its longest slide since August. Okay. This is causing people to absolutely freak out. They are panicking. Let me read this to you. It says stocks fell again on Tuesday as technology shares continued to retreat on concerns about valuations of artificial intelligence related stocks, and as Bitcoin dropped briefly below $90,000, a sign of reduced risk taking by investors. I want to read you a couple comments. One person says, I lost $19,700 in the market just in the past month. This is life-changing money for me, and I don't know how or if I will ever get this back. Yeah. What is happening right now is causing people to rethink their life decisions. The amount of money they spent on a vehicle, the amount of money that they're spending on their home. Because what happens is something that is it's very interesting. Even though you may not be buying and selling stocks every single day, you may not be looking at your account every single day. But when you see your accounts dropping, mentally you feel that you can't spend money. It's more risky. It's something that you don't really want to do at this point is go and spend more money. It's the risk factor there.
This holiday, Verizon has got.
Okay.
This has a lot of people extremely concerned because we've already seen a massive amount of layoffs. And these layoffs are happening because people don't have money. What did we have? Well, and many higher income earners and people that have been investing for several years, they've been looking at their retirement accounts, their portfolios, and they're using that as a way to pull money from it so they can go and spend on vacations and cars and homes and just buying stuff for Christmas. Again, that might not happen this year, which means we could see more layoffs in the very near future. People are freaking out because they don't have any money. The stock market is selling off, and maybe, just maybe, we're in this correction phase right now, which hopefully we can get out of. Hopefully we will rebound and stocks will go up and things will be great. There's stocks, I'll tell you right now, there's stocks I'm buying right now that I think are a good value right now. Not tech stocks. Tech stocks are, again, overvalued, okay? But there are other stocks out there that I think are undervalued. Says, and just like that, I have to sell my car. Everybody I talked to was saying that Bitcoin was headed to $1 million, and I believe that. I took money from my sister, I took cash from my Capital One card, and I pulled money from retirement thinking that this was a sure thing. Here's the problem. There's no such thing as a sure thing. Now, here's the other issue. Look at this. It says Fed official, this is the Fed official Christopher Waller, okay? It says he warns of U.S. recession risk after eye-popping layoffs. I'm telling you right now, this is not the end of the problems. This is not the end of the issues that we're facing here in the United States. I said this about a month ago, or actually 2 months ago, pretty much a month and a half ago, during the start of the government shutdown. I said this was the beginning, because if we saw the government shut down, even for a week, it was going to create issues. And these issues were going to compound the longer the government shut down. We were shut down for 40 some days. That's a huge, huge problem. And so now, and this is a big problem, we're starting to see those issues that were compounding. We're starting to see the problems that arose because of it.
Okay. Anybody got any comments on that? Feedback? Okay. Here we go.
Go to the website.
25, something unprecedented happened in global financial markets that almost nobody noticed. Chinese billionaires quietly moved 47 billion out of US stocks. Not into Chinese stocks, not into European markets, not into real estate or bonds or cryptocurrencies, into physical gold. $47 billion worth of metal sitting in vaults across Hong Kong, Singapore, and Switzerland. Now, you might be thinking, so what? Rich people move money around all the time. Portfolio rebalancing, tax strategies, nothing unusual. But here's what should terrify every American investor holding stocks in their 401k. This is the exact same pattern we saw in 2007, right before the housing market collapsed and took the entire financial system with it. The last time Chinese elites fled US assets at this scale, the S&P 500 fell 57% over the next 18 months. Lehman Brothers collapsed, Bear Stearns vanished. Americans lost $8 trillion in wealth. And it all started with Chinese investors quietly selling US assets and moving to gold, just like they're doing right now. Let me show you the evidence, because what's happening isn't speculation or conspiracy theory. This is hard data from official sources. In Q3 2025, that's July, August, September, Chinese investors sold a net 47.2 billion in US equities. That's the largest quarterly sell-off by Chinese nationals since we started tracking this data in 1998. But here's where it gets interesting. That 47 billion didn't disappear. It went somewhere very specific. According to the World Gold Council's latest report, Chinese gold purchases in Q3 2025 broke down like this. Individual investors bought 28.3 billion in physical gold bars and coins. Institutional buyers purchased 12.6 billion in gold ETFs and allocated gold, and family offices moved 6.3 billion into private vault storage. Added up, 47.2 billion, almost dollar for dollar. They sold American stocks and bought gold. This isn't retail investors in Beijing buying a few gold coins for their safe. This is China's wealthiest families, the billionaire class, making coordinated moves. Pony Ma, the founder of Tencent, reduced his US holdings by 40% and bought 2.1 billion in gold. Analyst reports, but from factory managers saying, we just got order cancellations from 3 hyperscalers. That's why they're selling Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. They know the AI revenue growth story is about to break, but there's more. Chinese investors are intimately familiar with sovereign debt crises. The Japanese bubble collapse, 1989, Asian financial crisis, 1997, the European debt crisis, 2011, and they're seeing the same warning signs in US debt levels right now. US national debt, 35.7 trillion of 2025. US GDP, 27.4 trillion debt to GDP ratio, 130%. For context, Japan's crisis hit at 120%. Greece collapsed at 180%. The US is at 130% and accelerating. Chinese investors are looking at this and thinking, the US is on the same path as every debt crisis we've studied. We need to exit before the dollar collapses. But there's an uncomfortable truth the American media refuses to discuss. Chinese billionaires are preparing for the possibility of US asset seizures. Since 2022, the US has frozen $300 billion in Russian assets, threatened to confiscate them, banned TikTok, sanctioned Chinese tech companies, and restricted investment. Chinese billionaires are watching this and thinking, if the US can freeze Russian assets overnight, they can do the same to us. So if you're a Chinese billionaire with 5 billion in US stocks and you see the US weaponizing financial assets, what do? You move your wealth to something the US can't seize. Physical gold in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Switzerland. Chinese investors are also watching the dollar lose reserve currency share. Since 2020, the dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from 62% to 58%. That represents trillions flowing out of dollar-denominated assets. Where is it going? Gold, plus 2.3 trillion in reserves, 2020, 2025. UN, 890 billion. Euro, plus 450 billion. BRICS nations are building an alternative to the dollar. Chinese billionaires are front-running the shift, moving to gold before the world realizes dollar dominance is ending. So Chinese billionaires are selling US stocks because they see 4 systemic risks: AI bubble bursting, US debt crisis, asset seizure risk, dollar decline. They're not selling because of a bad quarter. They're selling because they see systemic risks that could destroy dollar-denominated wealth. Now let's talk about why gold, because this isn't random. Gold has 3 properties, making it the ultimate safe haven. First, no counterparty risk. Stocks depend on CEOs, economies, monetary systems. Physical gold depends on nothing. Second, global acceptance. Gold stored in Singapore cannot be seized by the US. It's universally accepted. Third, inflation hedge. Every currency collapse in history rewarded gold holders. Let's look at gold during crisis. 2008 crisis. March 2008, 920 Oz. March 2009, 920 Oz. Sept 2011, 1895 Oz, up 106%. COVID, 2020. John 2020, 1580. Mar 2020, 1620. Oh, 2020, 2075, up 31%. If the pattern holds, here's gold.
So what they're saying is 2026, they're predicting a crash at the beginning of 2026. The reason why they're saying that these people are stocking up on gold, especially the BRICS countries, China and Russia and South Africa and all of them, they stocking up on gold because they understand that first of this year, next year come in, it's going to be a serious collapse with the dollar. Okay, any comments on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Shalom, everybody. I think, Brother Leonard, we've been seeing that, just that,
Right.
leading up to this. So, like you're saying, this is a part of prophecy too, part of America falling.
Exactly, right. Yeah, I got a video I'm gonna play after a while. He's just gonna really, really get everybody on their toes. Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, got some need to know information right here. It's part of what I just talked about too. So, like I said, it's a perfect storm out there, and it's coming to a head. Can't say it enough.
Are absolutely furious at the Trump regime, and they are striking back at Trump and the United States of America where it could hurt the most. The military. That's right. We're seeing fighter jets from places like Sweden and France be exported to new markets as other countries are less inclined to buy American military products as it becomes a less reliable provider. We're seeing Canada meet with Sweden over the past 48 hours, thinking about buying fighter jets from Saab. We're seeing Ukraine do a 10-year military deal with France for its Rafale fighter jets, as well as anti-drone and anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems. We are seeing a new world order shaping before our eyes as Donald Trump was in the Oval Office with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS, and it looked like Donald Trump had a crush on MBS. It was bizarre, and Donald Trump was saying, what a great ally of ours. Don't you ever offend this guy. And as Donald Trump is basically giving F-35s and nuclear-related technologies to Saudi Arabia as Trump's personal businesses benefit to the tune of potentially hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, the rest of the world and our former allies are seeing what's taking place, and they see looks like the United States rather cozy up with the Saudis than with the European Union or with Canada or with Australia or with America's traditional allies. So let me just show you what went down in the past 24 to 48 hours. So on the one hand, you have Donald Trump meeting with MBS in the Oval Office. We've reported extensively on what a humiliating sight it was. Donald Trump was yelling at reporters and saying, "Don't you dare ask about the Saudis' involvement in killing journalist Khashoggi or 9/11. How dare you ask those questions?" And you saw Donald Trump say, "This is one of our best friends. This is who our real ally is." So you had that. And then on the other hand, we had images of the government of Sweden, business delegations from Sweden, the royal family from Sweden, meeting in Canada as Canada is now continuing its evaluation of F-35 purchases and fighter jet purchases from the United States. I mean, Donald Trump has previously stated that he would potentially manipulate the fighter jet technology in order to control the locations where he exports. So people are saying, why the hell would we want to do business with the United States? And we've seen how Donald Trump tries to screw over allies, and people are like, we're just not going to do business with them. So why don't we start off in Canada, shall we? And I'll show you what happened when the Deputy Prime Minister of Sweden gave an interview with Canadian media, and she talked about how we in Sweden have to be very clear who our real friends are and who our friends aren't. And she basically says, Canada is a true friend, America isn't. You need to choose your friends wisely. This is the Swedish Deputy Prime Minister, and this is powerful. Here, play this clip.
Well, we brought in the heavy artillery. We brought in the king and queen of Sweden. It doesn't get any better than that. But I would say that everyone knows these are truly turbulent and quite tough and challenging times. And in those times, you need to choose your friends wisely. And Sweden is choosing Canada. And I think rightly so. And we're also seeing a very strategic work from Canada, and not least from Prime Minister Carney himself, in choosing his friends globally now very, very strategically. And I think Sweden is a great partner to Canada. We actually used to share the same bedrock. Did you know that? Before we were separated by the Atlantic. We were used to be called Virginia, which is also could be translated into family. And in that sense, I think Canada is quite a bit of family to Sweden. We share a lot of the same values when it comes to, we're both high trust, egalitarian societies, and we believe in that openness, but that openness should not be used against us. And I think now we need to choose our friends very, very wisely. So when we come to America, we come to Canada now. Hancock Whitney has just...
What do you think about that? Any comments? Okay, yes, like he said, everybody's, even we see what happened to the tourists. Nobody's coming here. So the tourist business is in the hole. And then now America was big on selling their military equipment abroad. That ain't happening no more. So it's like I said, we at the very end of this so-called American project. So yeah, keep your eyes open. So with that being said, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments, any dialogue, testimony about anything they came across over the last few days, last week, or anything they heard on this channel they want some clarity? Okay, everybody good? Here we go. Put this right here.
Never imagined what it would be like to live for nearly a millennium. Enough time to decipher every mystery of nature, to accumulate unimaginable knowledge, and to witness entire centuries of history unfold before your very eyes. This isn't fantasy or science fiction. It was the reality of the first humans, beings created directly by God. Adam lived 930 years. Methuselah reached an astonishing 969. An entire civilization thrived under a longevity that now seems absurd, almost unbelievable. But something changed. A profound turning point in human history appears in Genesis 6:3, where we find one of the Bible's most mysterious and unsettling declarations. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years." Why did God make such a radical decision? What happened that led the creator of the universe to, in a way, reprogram humanity? Today, we will explore the secrets of this divine choice, one that forever altered the destiny of the human race and our understanding of the purpose of life. When we think of Adam, we often imagine a primitive man, perhaps naive, discovering the world for the first time. But the biblical truth shows something entirely different. He was formed directly by the hands of God, with a perfect mind and intellectual capacities that would eclipse any genius who has ever lived. Adam wasn't a caveman. He was the first scientist, the pioneer of wisdom that transcends generations. During his 930 years, he had more than enough time to study, categorize, and understand creation in ways our brief lifespans could never achieve. The Bible says God brought all the animals to Adam so that he could name them. But in the Hebrew context, to name was not merely to label. It meant to perceive the essence, to understand the nature and fundamental characteristics of each creature. Adam was, in essence, conducting the first genetic study in history, discovering patterns, classifying species, and decoding the intricate web of life designed by God. Every animal, every plant, every natural phenomenon became an open book to his extraordinary mind.
If you can't quit the P word, I want to let you know that scripture is telling.
Yeah, that's what I was saying right here. What he's talking about right here is what you see when the Europeans came in contact with us and saw our civilization, and then on the other side of it, after they gunned us down and tormented all and hid our history, they got you thinking that they so wise, like they got Ben Franklin and dealing with the kite and all that, and then how they with Darwin, but it actually they getting all that from our forefathers. That's what they were. Enoch and all them, they was doing that, and then now they flipped it around on the other side after they took our history out, got us, showing us in the history books of them doing these type of things. And then really, like the man is saying, they doing it on a lower level. Whereas our forefathers, they was dealing with these angels and they was doing it on a cosmic level. But they don't want us to know that. Okay? So let me get a couple more of this.
Tells us that successful men are often the ones that deal with this, from David to Solomon.
Okay.
Further, with the first recorded genetic procedure, the creation of Eve from his rib. When he awoke, he immediately recognized, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." More than a romantic statement, that moment was a living lesson in genetics, biological compatibility, and the miracle of human creation, something no modern scientist could ever witness firsthand. For centuries, Adam passed this knowledge on to his descendants. He lived to see 8 generations unfold, sharing with his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren a vast reservoir of wisdom about longevity, natural laws, and the divine principles that governed life. Every conversation with him was like opening the secret manual of creation. This knowledge multiplied, forming a scientific and technological foundation unimaginable for any age. When Adam died at 930 years old, it wasn't just a life ending. It was the loss of a living library. Yet the seeds of wisdom he planted continued to grow, spreading through the minds of his descendants and shaping a civilization capable of exploring frontiers that even God had set. And yet, If Adam possessed such immense wisdom, what happened to the generations that followed? How did that knowledge evolve to the point of drawing the Creator's attention once again? Imagine a world where youth began at 200 years old and the elderly lived past 1,000. Each human being was a walking library, carrying centuries of observations, discoveries, and accumulated experience. This was the reality of the antediluvian world, a super civilization that flourished between Adam and Noah, driven by a longevity that defies modern understanding. It was not a primitive society, but a golden age of science, knowledge, and technology, perhaps greater than anything we know today. Consider these astonishing numbers. Adam lived 930 years, Seth 912, Enosh 905, Kenan 910, Mahalalel 895, Jared 962, Enoch 365 before being taken by God, Methuselah 969, Lamech 777, and Noah 950. For hundreds of years, these living universities coexisted simultaneously. Imagine the conversations, the debates, the exchange of ideas among minds that carried centuries of wisdom and observation. Each patriarch functioned like a biological supercomputer.
Yeah, so these are our forefathers. This is the knowledge right there that they hid from us right here. Okay, but they want to say mankind knowledge. No, it's Israelite, Hebrew, right?
Capable of processing and storing information at a level far beyond human comprehension. Knowledge did not merely accumulate, it multiplied. Adam passed on his discoveries to Seth, who expanded and shared them with Enosh, who in turn refined and developed them further for Kenan. Each generation built new foundations upon the previous one, but with enough time not only to learn, but to innovate, experiment, and discover. In just a few centuries, this civilization could have developed technologies and understood scientific principles that humanity would take millennia to rediscover. The Bible gives us hints about the level of their advancement. Genesis 4 describes the descendants of Cain as builders of cities, creators of musical instruments, and craftsmen in bronze and iron. But that's only the surface. With centuries to perfect their skills, these antediluvian artisans and scientists likely developed techniques that would astonish even modern engineers. Building cities was not simply stacking stones. It involved urban planning, hydraulic engineering, advanced architecture, and a complex social organization. Yet, a growing danger lurked within this super civilization. The same knowledge that could serve for good could also be corrupted. The longevity that allowed wisdom to flourish also gave time for evil, depravity, and rebellion to take root against God. Corrupt individuals had centuries to refine wicked practices, influence generations, and spread destruction. But his descendants experienced a steady and measurable decline in lifespan. God was carefully calibrating the new human software, finding the perfect balance. Enough time for growth and learning, but not enough for unchecked corruption. This change served as a constant reminder that longevity was a gift, not a natural right. But how exactly did this genetic reset work? And what impact did this divine reprogramming have on the generations that followed? The flood was not merely a judgment. It was the greatest genetic reset in human history. When the waters finally receded and Noah stepped onto dry land, he carried more than just his family. He bore the reprogrammed DNA of a new humanity. God had implemented what we might call a divine algorithm, gradually reducing human lifespan in a controlled, purposeful manner, preparing the world for a new beginning. Noah lived an astonishing 950 years, but with each new generation, human life seemed to be calibrated gradually and intentionally, as if God were carefully adjusting the parameters of existence for the new era that was beginning. His sons and grandsons experienced a progressive decline in longevity, following an almost mathematical rhythm, as though a divine algorithm was determining the lifespan of every soul. Noah, 950 years. Shem, 600 years. Arphaxad, 438 years. Shelah, 433 years. Eber, 464 years. Peleg, 239 years. Royu, 239 years. Serug, 230 years. Nahor, 148 years. Terah, 205 years. Abraham, 175 years. This was not coincidence. There was a pattern, a calculated reduction that reflected the hand of God genetically shaping humanity for a new reality. Each generation lived shorter than the one before, as though a divine clock was being finely tuned, marking the exact pace for history to unfold according to plan. This redefinition of human life was not merely symbolic, it carried deep strategic purposes. It allowed the plan of redemption to progress more rapidly, accelerating the fulfillment of the messianic promises. It also served as a purifying mechanism. Shorter lifespans limited the spread of the genetic and spiritual corruption inherited from the pre-flood world, granting every generation a new opportunity for renewal. It was as if God had rebooted the human system, installing a safer and more balanced version of humanity. Furthermore,
Okay. Anybody got any feedback on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Just that in the clip, it showed how they denigrated us. And, you know, like you said, they took away from the fact that the Hebrew man was the learning man because he was dealing with the angels.
Exactly. Right, exactly. And then also, he said longevity, he said it itself, longevity is a blessing. And then now he's saying that the Creator intentionally reduced the lifespan because of corruption and I mean, you know, the people was learning stuff, wicked stuff. No, that don't shake right with me. We got he reduced it because of what happened on the earth with the fallen angels and all that, and the lifespan was shortened. But it wasn't because of, I mean, like he said, for a man to live 800-900 years was a blessing. And the thing that stuck out to me was he says that I talked about this before, how, you know, a lot of people don't know it, but when Enoch was born, Adam was still alive. Just like when Abraham was on the earth, Noah was still alive. So that's what they've done to us. They put cracks in that knowledge. Can you imagine that? Seth was still alive when Enoch came on the scene. Seth was still alive because he put all them to sleep. And then you got to look at it. They was righteous. They were so righteous that he caused them all. He put them all to sleep before the flood. He didn't want them to see the flood. That's how righteous they were. Before the flood, he didn't want them to see the violence and the chaos of the flood. So they all was put away before the flood, right before the flood. Is there something? Any comments on that? Anybody got anything? Okay. So with that being said, nobody have nothing. My topic for discussion is, like I was saying, we are so close to it's a shame. What I'm gonna do is I'm constantly reading this, but I'm gonna read this again tonight. Then I'm gonna show it to you on the video. Okay, I try to work my jelly on this on my StreamYard. So anyway, it's chapter 60, right? So it's the future glory of Zion. It says, "Arise and shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising." So we're going to look at this again, verse 3. and the Gentiles, the people right now that most Negroes looking up to, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see all they that gather themselves together, they come to thee. Thy sons shall come from afar, and thy daughters shall be nursed upon thy side. Then thou shalt see, right? So when that happens, what I just read 1 through 4, when that happens, it says, then thou shalt see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. That's the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, right? The abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee, and the forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee, and the multitude of camels shall cover thee, and the drummery of Midian and Ephah, and all they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of the Lord. In verse 7, and the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nebat shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on mine altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. So I'm gonna stop right there. I may read a little more later, but that right there, right? So if you paying attention, the Christian Hebrew Israelite, the ones that dealing with Yahushua, they don't. It's happening right now in their face, but they don't see it because they're dealing with Yahushua and they're dealing with the Lord of hosts, which is all figments of the Gentile imagination. After he got hold up, like he said in Genesis, the Tower of Babel, see the imagination of men's minds. Okay, so I'm going to show you where that Isaiah chapter 60 is right now in our face. Okay, like I said, I'm going to work my jelly on this. Okay, here we go. Let me get it. Okay. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna play it. I let it go all the way through. Then I'm gonna come back and we'll talk about it. Okay. Here we go.
Africa and the Caribbean may be on the verge of creating one of the most powerful trade corridors of the 21st century, an eye-watering $3 trillion bridge of opportunity stretching boldly across the Atlantic. Yes, $3 trillion. That's the figure now circulating in diplomatic corridors, boardrooms, and WhatsApp groups across Accra, Bridgetown, Kingston, and beyond. And if the whispers from Barbados are anything to go by, this is no longer just about nostalgia or emotional reconnection. Africa and the Caribbean are quietly assembling the architecture for a new economic super corridor powered by fintech, agribusiness, renewable energy, and the creative economy. But why now? Why these regions? And could this become the Global South's most powerful commercial alliance yet? Those questions floated through conversations as a historic chartered flight from Accra touched down in Bridgetown, an arrival so symbolic that onlookers described it as feeling like watching the continent and its diaspora physically reconnect. Sponsored by Milvest, a company under Miller Holdings, right now. The flight wasn't just a logistical novelty. It was the VIP entrance for the GUBA Trade and Investment Conference and Awards 2025. The event now credited with kickstarting what many insiders are already calling a tectonic shift in Africa-Caribbean relations. For 3 days, Barbados buzzed like the new capital of Afro-Atlantic possibility. Government officials, venture capitalists, artists, and development bankers moved through the island as if attending a secret meeting about rewriting global trade rules. And honestly, isn't that exactly what this moment feels like? a subtle but profound rearrangement of who gets to influence the next chapter of global economic power. At the center of this unfolding story was none other than His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the Asantehene of Ghana, whose presence electrified the entire program. If anyone was going to lend both gravitas and glamour to this moment, it was him. Delegates whispered about how unprecedented it was to see traditional authority, political leadership, and global business circles converge under one roof. The Asantehene used his keynote address to remind the African diaspora of the immense influence they hold, urging them to leverage their global reach to shift perceptions of Africa from dependency to opportunity, innovation, and strength. He also touched on the ongoing dialogue around reparations and concluded by endorsing the African Union's designation of the diaspora as Africa's sixth region. Here's what he said.
We can recall that in reference to the experiences of the slave trade, oppression, and racial discrimination, some famous individuals of African descent, such as Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr., all advocated that Africans and in extension all people of African descent need to reconnect and, if possible, join a giant sovereign union of a single socio, political, economic, and cultural identity. They emphasized that the need for African descendants to work together to transform the paradigm of centuries of discrimination and leverage the continental political union in international relations. As if to follow up on this grand vision of African unity, in 2006, the Constitutive Act of the AU was amended to include the African diaspora as the sixth region of the continent, the others being Central, Eastern, Northern, Southern, and Western regions of Africa. The Act defines the African diaspora to include the people of African region living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. The article manifests an official recognition of the role of African diaspora irrespective of historical migration as either forced or voluntary, pre-slave trade, slave trade, post-slave trade, and modern migration in advancing the Pan-African philosophy through the development or rebuilding of Africa and African heritage. Already, some Afro-pessimists and cynics have described the AU's sixth region as a coded language for what they call Africans who have migrated and are living outside Africa. We should not allow ourselves to continue to be divided. For me, there is not a mere symbolic designation. It is a living and breathing opportunity for political, economic, and cultural revival. We should leverage the AU designation and initiative to connect Africa and its diaspora, irrespective of where they are, when and how they got to their present location. By our calculation, this will amount to about 350 million people of African descent, which translates into the third biggest population in the world if all the African diaspora could be considered as living in one country.
The event itself carried a subtle electricity. One could almost feel the shift from ceremony to commerce as the Accra Bridgetown Charter was hailed as the first direct, privately backed connection of its kind. Lady Denta Amoding, the force behind GUBA Enterprise, underscored that Africa and the Caribbean had always possessed market complementarity and resource synergy. What had been missing was simply the infrastructure of connection. And suddenly, here it was, signaling to the world that the Atlantic was no longer a barrier, but a corridor waiting to be activated. Together, Africa's 1.4 billion people and the Caribbean's 44 million strong global diaspora form a market nearly equivalent to the European Union. Who would have imagined that the descendants of those once scattered across the ocean could be on the brink of turning their shared history into shared economic power? The $3 trillion opportunity dominated the conversations. Panelists painted pictures of fintech platforms linking remittances and payments across Lusophone, Anglophone, and Francophone markets. Agribusiness partnerships feeding Caribbean tourism hubs directly from African farms. Renewable energy collaborations tackling climate vulnerabilities. and a creative economy pipeline uniting Nollywood, Ghana's fashion houses, reggae, soca, Afrobeats, and Caribbean film studios. Could this be the moment Africa and the Caribbean stop exporting raw materials and start exporting full-scale global brands? And if so, what would it mean for the balance of cultural and economic power? The timing could not be more strategic. The African Continental Free Trade Area, now the world's largest free trade zone by membership, is actively seeking external partners who can plug into its $3.4 trillion GEP. Meanwhile, Caribbean governments are steadily trying to free themselves from overdependence on traditional Western partners. Barbados, in particular, is hunting for fresh bilateral deals in tourism, agriculture, digital services, and climate resilience. And with Western nations reevaluating their engagement with the global South, the Caribbean is recognizing that its future may lie less in old alliances and more in South-South cooperation. After all, how long can small island states remain spectators while the world's next economic giants, most of them African, reshape global systems? The political and diplomatic weight of the conference did not go unnoticed. Barbados pulled out the big guns, deploying Export Barbados, the National Cultural Foundation, and the Tourism Board to support what officials described as a long overdue alignment of interests. Prime Minister Mia Mottley's government hosted a high-level reception at Delaro Court, showcasing Barbados's ambition to become a global South covenanting power capable of uniting markets far larger than its population size suggests. Even more significantly, the event produced real documents, not just handshakes. A milestone memorandum of understanding was signed between the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, formalizing a partnership years in the making. It commits both nations to knowledge exchange, private sector collaboration, and advocacy for a regular direct flight between Accra and Bridgetown. If that flight becomes commercial reality, just imagine what it could unleash: investment tourism, student mobility, fashion and film exchanges, cross-regional production chains, and an entire diaspora-driven middle class connecting two regions that were historically cut apart. The presence of presidents and prime ministers elevated the atmosphere further. President Dame Sandra Mason attended the GUBA Awards ceremony, presenting top honors and highlighting the need for real institutional linkages. Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell joined other leaders in signaling that this was not just cultural diplomacy, but a serious economic project with regional implications. This gathering was far more than a photo op. Delegates produced frameworks for cross-border financing, digital payments, and diaspora-led venture funds. Barbados became the first Caribbean nation to join the Connecting 1 Million Women in Trade network, boosting opportunities for women entrepreneurs. A diaspora investment network was launched with promises of measurable projects within a year. And the gala underscored an often ignored truth: culture is not decoration, it is an economic engine. Fashion, film, and storytelling all emerged as vehicles for brand visibility and export growth. As the week closed, one question lingered: could this become the new blueprint for South-South commerce? If the Accra-Bridgetown model is replicated, Africa and the Caribbean could redefine globalization itself, shifting from dependency to equity, from extraction to partnership, and from historical trauma to shared triumph. The Atlantic, once a site of unimaginable suffering, may finally become a highway for collective prosperity. Your perspective matters. What do you make of the $3 trillion trade corridor discussed between Africa?
Okay, what you think? Is that Isaiah 60 or what?
Yes, yes, sir. Sound just like, well, look just like.
Right, and you can see why the guy just said the beginning of 2026 is when the dollar gonna collapse, and AU is gonna come online in February 2026. We here. we here, okay? If there's something that all that $3-4 trillion they talking about, that's the same money they was negotiating with over here. It's been moved. That's why France, all these European countries collapsing. They no longer have no access to that money because the materials that was in Africa been frozen. They making deals with Russia and China with those same materials. They ain't dealing with the West no more. This is where all the drama coming from. Lord hosts at work. And look at all the people they fired. You thinking, have all these people looking for jobs. Where you think the jobs, where they popping up at? Over there, but man just showed you. Come on. So like I said, you got people that they're not hearing none of this, but like I said, you're gonna have, just like when they left Egypt. They ain't want to leave. There was a bunch of them that want to leave. But they had to let go. You don't want to hear my word for that, but they had to let it go. The time came, that's what's getting ready to happen now. If you connect to the Lord of hosts and to the Most High and to heaven, you can't stay here. And like I said, this is how long you think it's going to be with everything you just saw. How long you think it's going to be before those dots get connected and everything get rerouted? Come on. Well, here go another one right here. This is to tie to that right here. This is, play this. Okay. So this says Trump panic as millions of African Americans flee the USA. Now we know why they flee. Because of this, what I just showed you. Let me get it. Okay. Like I said, the average person ain't even seeing this.
To get into America.
Check it out.
I can say this, we will do large deportations.
Thousands of African Americans are getting out, not to Canada, not to Europe, to Africa. And it's not just happening, it's accelerating. Ghana granted citizenship to over 1,500 diaspora members in 2024 alone. Kenya is seeing 5 times more American relocation applications than 3 years ago. Liberia just launched a national diaspora return program. Now, this isn't tourism. This isn't a trend. And if you think this is just about people wanting to change scenery, you are missing the entire game. Because while America is losing talent, Africa is gaining something much more valuable: legitimacy. Here is the move most people missed. In 2019, Ghana launched something called the Year of Return. On the surface, a tourism campaign marking 400 years since the first enslaved Africans arrived in Virginia. Heritage, healing, history. But watch what actually happened. Ghana didn't just get tourists, they got investors, entrepreneurs, tech professionals, creatives, people who came for 2 weeks and stayed for 2 years. And most importantly, they got legitimacy. Because when a software engineer from Silicon Valley chooses Accra over Austin, that's not just migration, that's a referendum. A referendum on whether the American dream still includes Black Americans. Now, I'm going to show you 3 things that happened between 2020 and 2025 that turned this from a campaign into a movement. But first, you need to understand why Trump's administration saw this as a threat. Now, every nation's power rests on 3 pillars: military strength, economic output, and narrative control. America has been dominant on all 3, but narrative control, that's the one that has been cracking. Now, between 2020 and 2025, three things collided. First, George Floyd's unaliving. The protests that followed didn't just expose systemic racism, they made it impossible to ignore. Now, for many African Americans, this confirmed what they already knew. No matter how successful you are, no matter how much you contribute, America might never see you as fully American.
Exactly.
So here is the question. If you are a Black professional earning six figures, raising kids, watching the news every night, at what point do you stop trying to fix the system and start looking for a different one? Second, Trump's rhetoric and policies, the shithole comments he made in 2018. Third, the country's deportation proposals, the consistent messaging that non-white people were problems to be solved, not people to be welcomed. If you are African American, watching the leader of your country disparage the continent your ancestors came from, that does something to you. Now, a friend of mine in Lagos put it like this: when your own country treats Africa like a dumping ground, but actual Africans treat you like family coming home, that math is simple. Third, DNA ancestry testing went mainstream. By 2025, over 26 million Black Americans had used services like 23andMe or African Ancestry to trace their roots. Suddenly, Africa wasn't abstract. It was Ghana, it was Benin, it was Gabon. It had coordinates, it had tribes, it had names. And once you know exactly where you came from, the idea of going back stops being fantasy and starts being logistics. So Trump's concern, it's not really about the numbers, though we'll get to those in a second. It's about what it means when educated, productive citizens choose to leave. Because every person who leaves for Africa takes three things with them: capital, skill, and the American narrative. Now, speaking about capital and skills, if you are actually thinking about building wealth through African investments, there are specific challenges you need to understand. You have currency volatility, cross-border complexity, relationship-driven markets. I cover all this in my ebook, The Diaspora Investor's Guide. But here's what I realized while writing it. If you can successfully navigate the African business environment, the currency risk, the partnership vettings, building in uncertain conditions, you can build business anywhere, no matter where you find yourself, be it in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in Nigeria, in South Africa. Those skills transfer. So even if you never invest in Africa, the framework on resilience and creative problem solving will make you a stronger entrepreneur. Aren't small things when you are trying to build a life. There are also tensions. Some local Africans resent Brittany's for driving up real estate prices and acting entitled. There are diaspora members who show up expecting to be welcomed like royalty and end up fleeing like outsiders twice. Once in America, now in Africa. And let's be real about the numbers again. 25,000 people is significant, but it's not millions fleeing like some headlines claim. The question isn't whether this is the biggest migration in history. The question is whether it's the beginning of something bigger.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody got any feedback? Okay. Anybody have anything? Like I said, keep your eyes on that. I caught myself trying to keep everybody up on it because it's gonna come up on you so fast overnight, and you're gonna be discombobulated. Okay. We're gonna go to our scripture reading. Read our 5 chapters. Deuteronomy. We're going to be reading 31 through 36. Okay. You want to read chapter 31, Nidra?
Shalom. Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 31. And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also the Lord hath said unto me, Thou shalt not go over this Jordan. The Lord thy God, he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee, and thou shalt possess them. And Joshua, he shall go over before thee, as the Lord hath said. And the Lord shall do unto them as he did to Sihon and to Og, kings of the Amorites, and unto the land of them whom he destroyed. And the Lord shall give them up before your face, that ye may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of a good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. And Moses wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, At the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the feast of tabernacles, when all Israel is come to appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn and fear the Lord your God, and observe to do all the words of this law, and that their children which have not known anything may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as ye live in the land, whither ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thy days approach, that thou must die. Call Joshua, and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the congregation, that I may give him a charge. And Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. And the Lord appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of the cloud stood over the door of the tabernacle. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whither they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, Are not these evils come upon us, because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, and that they are turned unto other gods. Now therefore write ye this song for you, and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swear unto their fathers, that floweth with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves, and waxen fat, then they will turn unto other gods and serve them, and provoke me, and break my covenant. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination, which they go about, even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swear. Moses therefore wrote this song the same day, and taught it to the children of Israel. And he gave Joshua the son of Nun a charge, and said, Be strong and of a good courage, for thou shalt bring the children of Israel into the land which I swear unto them, and I will be with thee. And it came to pass, when Moses had made an end of writing the words of this law in a book until they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, Take this book of the law and put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. For I know thy rebellion and thy stiff neck. Behold, while I am yet alive with you this day, ye have been rebellious against the Lord, and how much more after my death? Gather unto me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to record against them. For I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourselves, and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands. And Moses spake in the ears of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. That was Deuteronomy chapter 31. Shalom.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna shine a light on this right quick. We already talked about it. It's in chapter 18, or the same chapter. Deuteronomy 18 says, chapter 8. This is one of those typologies. They use the typology to try to insert Jesus in the story. So in verse Deuteronomy 18 and 15, the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, likened unto me. Moses talking to the Israelites, likened unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. So they saying that this prophecy right here is Jesus, right? And I broke that down, I think it was last week. So if you go to Deuteronomy chapter 34, you'll see we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you go to 34 and you can see verse 9. Moses is going to die, right? Okay, it says in 34 and 7, and Moses was 120 years old when he died. See that? His eyes were not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So days of weeping and mourning for Moses was ended. Now here you go. It's the prophecy being fulfilled. And Joshua, see that? The son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, and Moses had laid hands upon him, and the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. So there go the prophecy being fulfilled over there in Deuteronomy 18, 15, not JC. But they took this Deuteronomy 18 and 15, this is the way to plug JC into the Old Testament. It's a prime example of typology. Now, I'm going to give a second witness to that. That was just read in Deuteronomy 31. So it says in Deuteronomy 31, right here it says, verse 15, Deuteronomy 31, 15. And the Lord appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, right, and stood over the tabernacle. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. See that? You're going to die. So right here, as soon as with him knowing that Moses got to die, he got to raise up another man. Finish leading the job ain't over with. Moses did completed his part of the task, but somebody else got to take over where Moses is. This is the prophecy right here in Daniel 18 and 15. I mean Deuteronomy 18 and 15. So here you go again right here. It says, and the Lord appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of a cloud stood over the tabernacle. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have given, which I will made with them. So this also right here ties to Abraham, right? The prophecy in Abraham chapter in chapter 15. They're saying that when he told Moses, your seed gonna go into a place and they're gonna be afflicted 400 years. They say it's a miracle, right? Well, look at this. 16. He told Moses, and the Lord appeared unto in the tabernacle on the pillar of cloud. And the pillar of cloud stood over the tabernacle, and the Lord said unto Moses, behold, thou shalt sleep with our fathers, and this people will rise up and go a horn after other gods or the strangers of the land, whither thou go to be among them. That's where Joseph was in the land of Egypt, came back and got his daddy and all them, and they went to be among the Egyptians. And they start serving other gods. See that? And then we're going to go back, keep going, and it says, verse 19, now therefore write ye this song for you and teach it to the children of Israel and put it in their mouths that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which they shall swear to their fathers, or that flowed with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten and filled themselves and waxen fat, then will they turn unto other gods, serve them, and provoke me, and break my covenant. And it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are befalling them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of the seed. For I know their imagination which they go about. Even now, check this out. Even now, before have I brought them into the land of which I swore. Moses therefore wrote this song the same day and taught it to the children of Israel. But I was trying to find where he mentioned Joshua again. But anyway, so he told Moses that he was going to die, and then he turned around and told him Joshua was coming. But anyway, another thing I want to show you in Daniel when he says they had to go into Egypt for they had to go to Babylon for 70 years, right? Right here. I just caught this when it was being read. 9. And Moses wrote this law. Watch this. This one law, not the book of the law. And Moses wrote this law, right? What law is that? And he delivered it unto the priests, the sons of Levi, which bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, see that? In the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles, this is the year of release. 6 years you till the ground, the 7th year you let the ground rest. So Moses specifically shine a light on this one law, right? Okay, then that's how it got us over here. 11, when all of Israel is coming to appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law. See that? Not the book of the law, this law before all Israel in the hearing. Yeah, I just want to shine a light on that. It hit me right there. Any comments on that? Anybody got anything? Okay, you're gonna read 32 and 33, AJ? I'll read the other two.
Right, yes, sir. In Deuteronomy 32, Moses' song, give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the rock, He is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and wise? Is not he thy father that have bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee, when the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land and in a waste, howling wilderness. He led them about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine, and the milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys of wheat. And thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook God which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrifice on the devils, and not to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that newly came up, whom your fathers feared not. When your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten the God that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation, children in whom is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with the foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn onto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap mischiefs, excuse me. I will heap mischiefs upon them, and I will spin mine arrows upon them, and they shall be burnt with hunger, and devoured with burning heat, and with bitter destruction. And I will also send the teeth of the beast upon them, with the poison of the serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hairs. I said, I would scatter them into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and put 10,000 to flight, except their rock has sold them and the Lord has shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons. and the cruel venom of asp. It is not this laid up in store, is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Lord shall judge his people and repent himself for the servants when he seeth that their power is gone and there is none shut up or left. And he shall say, where are their gods, their rock, in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. See now that I, even I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand in heaven and say, I live forever. And if I wet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy. 43, rejoice, rejoice, O ye nations, with this people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance to his adversaries and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. And Moses came and spake all the words of this song into the ears of the people, he and Hoshea, the son of Nun. And Moses made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said unto them, set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which you shall command your children to observe to do all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing you shall prolong your days in the land, whether ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spake unto Moses that self same day, saying, get thee up into this mountain, Abiram, onto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho. And behold, the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount, whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered onto his people, because you trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin, because ye sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go thither onto the land which I give to the children of Israel. And shalom, that's Deuteronomy 32.
Okay, got any feedback on that chapter?
Well, this the famous chapter, Brother Leonard, for me, with the verses 39 through 42.
Right.
Just because that's the Lord of hosts, he the one with the sword. And just to the fact that this is a song, what he said in the chapter before, what was that? In 31 and 19 said, write this song now, therefore write ye this song for you and teach it to the children of Israel, put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. That was big.
Oh yeah, it's every generation. Is that song?
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah, also something else that stuck out. You was talking about 39, 40 and 41. Look at 43. Check out, it says, rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and he will render vengeance to his enemies. Here you go right here. And I will be merciful unto his land, and his people.
Mm.
See that?
Yes,
So
sir.
go back to when land was divided. See that? His land and his people.
Right.
You see that? You see that? And then another one is Deuteronomy 32:12. This crack the code on that. Me by myself, I'm alone, right? So right here it says, so the Lord alone did lead him. The him is Israel. So it's the same him in Isaiah 53. But it says, so the Lord alone did lead him, Israel. He led the nation of Israel. That's the him. And there was no strange God, lowercase.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Right.
With him. So you say, what are you talking about? Go to Exodus 23. We always reading this chapter, this verse. 23 and 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. See that? So it's an angel he sent before them. Then over here in 12, so the Lord alone did lead them. See that? You see it?
Yes, sir. The angel.
Right, the angel. Yeah. When you connect all the dots with that, there it is. Okay. Okay, you want to read 32?
Yes, sir.
33 MB.
In Deuteronomy 33, Israel blessed by Moses. And this is the blessing where with Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir onto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. Yea, he loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand, and they sat down at thy feet. Everyone shall receive of thy words. Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. And he was king in Jeshurun when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together. Let Reuben live, let Reuben live and not die, and let not his man be few. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help to him from his enemies. And of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One, whom thou did prove at Massa, and with whom thou did strive at the waters of Meribah, who said unto his father and to his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children, for they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. They shall teach Jacob thy judgments, and Israel thy law. They shall put incense before thee, and whole burnt sacrifice upon thine altar. Bless, Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hands. Smite through the loins of them that rise against him, and of him that hate him, that they rise not again. And of Benjamin he said, the beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him, and the Lord shall cover him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders. And of Joseph he said, blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that couches beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon, and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth, and the fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush. Let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. And they shall call the people onto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of the treasures hid in the sand. And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. And he provideth the first part for himself, because there in a portion of the lawgiver was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments with Israel. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp, he shall leap from Bashan. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessings of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. And of Asher he said, Let Asher be blessed with children, let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil. Thy shoes shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be. There 26, there is none like unto God there is none like unto the God of Jeshurun, who rideth upon the heaven in thy help, and in his excellency on the sky. The eternal God is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he shall thrust out the enemy from before thee, and shall say, Destroy them. Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon the land of corn and wine. Also his heavens shall drop down dew. Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by the Lord, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency. And thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. And Shalom, that was Deuteronomy chapter 33.
Okay, you got anything on that?
But Brother Leonard, in verse 16,
Okay.
when it says and for the precious things of the earth and the fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, is they talking about Exodus 3 right there?
Yeah, that's what I assume.
Okay, yes, sir. The burning bush.
Right.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna read the last chapter. It's the death of Moses. Deuteronomy 34. Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountains of Nebo, unto the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, Manasseh, and all the land of Judah unto the utmost sea, and the south, and the plains of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees unto Zor. And the Lord said unto him, This is the land which I swore unto Abraham, and unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, over against Bethpeor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died, and his eyes were not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab. 30 days was 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. Okay. Yeah, it just dawned on me that, Most High, he said a man was to live one day with the Lord. Then he reduced it down to 120 years. Remember that? Anybody remember that?
Right. Yes, sir.
That's how long Moses lived, 120 years. And that's something? Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna. Nobody have anything? We're gonna. Michelle, you're gonna pick that scripture and then we'll read it and then we'll break it down.
Shalom. Yes, sir. In the book of Zechariah, chapter 2.
Okay.
Verses 1 through 5, please, sir.
Okay.
I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. Verse 3, and behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. Verse 5, for I said it, the Lord will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. That was Zechariah chapter 2, verses 1 through 5.
Okay, what you get out of that?
Shalom, sir. My focus was on verse 3, sir, where it says, and behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him. So those two angels in verse 3 is Michael and Gabriel.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly. But I want to shine a light on something else on that.
Okay.
Let me get it right quick. Let me get it. I'm gonna start it. It's in Ezekiel chapter 40. So in verse 1, it says, in the 5th and 20th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th month, in the 14th year, after that, the city was broken up. In the self-same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me hither. And the vision of God brought me into the land of Israel and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me hither, and behold, there was a man. See that same thing. Behold, a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flex in his hand and a measuring reed, and he stood before in the gate. So the reason I was saying that was Ezekiel is in the captivity in Babylon, and Zechariah. So they looking at these angels showing them Zerubbabel temple.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, the same thing is happening right here in Ezekiel. It's a man with a measuring line, and he measured the temple, but it's the same. Same. They like when you understand where they at. They in Babylon. They have to come back. According to Daniel 9:25, they're gonna rebuild the temple. So that's what they getting. It's now he's getting close to that time. He got like he doing now. He's dealing with Israelite men, raising them up and showing them things that's getting ready to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So then look at verse 5 in Ezekiel 40. Okay, it says, and behold, a wall on the outer side of the house round about. So what wall is that? The one in 9:25. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to read the rest of that chapter? I think it's only about 13 verses left. 13 verses in that chapter.
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay.
Verse 6 of Zechariah chapter 2. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, said the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, said the Lord. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. Verse 8, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake mine hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants. And ye shall know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me. Verse 10, sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, said the Lord. And many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee. And thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me unto thee. Verse 12, and the Lord shall inherit Judah, his portions in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before the Lord, for he is raised up out of his holy habitations.
Right. So just like I was saying earlier, look at verse 12, which also identifies again the Lord of hosts. You know, it says in the land, which would take you back to when the earth was divided up. It says the Lord shall inherit Judah, his portion in the Holy Land. See that? And said, and shall choose Jerusalem again. And then 13, be silent, all flesh before the Lord. He is raised up out of his holy habitation. Raised up, that's Zion. Like I said, Yahweh ain't don't dwell in Zion. They ain't the Lord Yahweh's holy habitation. That's Michael's holy habitation. Zion. That's what was given to him when the earth was divided up by these angels. Okay.
Yes, sir, Brother Leonard. In verse 11, can you explain that, please, sir, where it says, and many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me unto thee.
Right. So we go back to Abraham. When he changed Abraham's name, Abraham is going to be the father of many nations. So out of those nations, Israel is one of the nations, and he said he chose Israel as the apple of his eye, but all those other nations is part of Abraham too. So these are the nations he's talking about. He got Sarah died, and then he had the mother 6 boys for Keturah, which is the Arabs. You got Ishmael, who came from Hagar. You got Midian where Moses went to, Jethro. You got all D-Day and them nations. All them nations is going to be joined unto him too. Like I was saying, several occasions when he talked about the stranger. So you got Abraham was a Hebrew. He wasn't a Hebrew Israelite. Isaac was a Hebrew. He wasn't a Hebrew Israelite. And then they had other sons and daughters. So the Hebrews, so they ended up some kind of way. They ended up in Jerusalem. They got all the same rights as any other Hebrew Israelite got because of their lineage.
Yes, sir. So the apple of his eye, does that go back to Genesis 17, where he says, but my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this time, set time in the next year. Exactly. And I know later on, sir, he wrestled with Jacob and changed his name to Israel.
Right. Okay. Jacob wrestled with him.
Right, Jacob wrestled with him. Yes, sir.
Right. Oh yeah. So yeah. And then, like I said, he got a covenant with Abraham. It started with Abraham. He made a covenant with him. Abraham passed. He made a covenant with Isaac. And then when Isaac came, then Jacob came. He made a covenant with Jacob. That's why we continuously reminded of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Okay? I see. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got anything else before we go? Okay, we got our women's advanced Bible study tomorrow night. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. So the men can come in through YouTube. So till then, I'll see everybody tomorrow for our women's advanced Bible study. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanak, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown of the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.